All right, everybody. Welcome to the Resistance Desk Beyond Burnout with Rhonda Johnson. I'm Rhonda Johnson, and here on the podcast, we're all about truth telling, healing, and holding it all together in unjust systems and making that real, especially in these times. I'm Rhonda Johnson. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm also in early literacy, so I am as close as I can be without being an educator. I think to education and seeing the changes that have happened thus far. So what I'm doing now is creating a community of advocates and education allies like myself, along with educators, so we can talk about the issues that are affecting all of us and bring them to light and have more coherent conversations about what's going on and what we can do about them. So my first guest, hopefully to become a regular contributor, is Justin Parmenter. Am I saying it right? Parmenter? Okay. And I got this from your LinkedIn. A 30-year veteran educator, writer, and fierce advocate for public schools, and celebrated 23 years teaching middle school in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. Thank you so much for your contribution. I was surprised to see that you were with the Peace Corps in post-communist Albania. Definitely got to talk about that. And again, Justin is here to give that educator aspect. I call it in the trenches aspect of what's going on when these policies are passed locally and federally, and how that affects our students, how that affects our community, and how that affects educators. So I would just like for you, well, first of all, I need to welcome you. So welcome here to the Resistance Desk. And then I'd just like for you to just talk about your journey to education.
Thank you. Well, I'm really happy to be here to talk with you today, Rhonda. So thank you for the opportunity. So I guess for me, a lot of my colleagues have stories about how, when they were little, they taught their dolls, they wanted to be a teacher since they could walk, their mom was a teacher, all that kind of stuff. And for me, my experience is different from that. Not a lot of teachers in my family, and what happened for me was, I was halfway through college, and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, like a lot of college students. And I was a good reader and writer. I liked literature a lot, but didn't have a lot of direction in my life. So halfway through college, I was starting to feel a little bit under the gun as far as graduation and no plans and that kind of thing. So looked
Yeah.
into joining the Peace Corps, which I thought would be a way of delaying, making some adult decisions about my future, and being able to travel and see the world and have some adventures, you know, uh, not on my own dime, but so, I started tutoring at the university I was working at to give me qualifications to at least get my foot in the door as a teacher, a Peace Corps teacher. So about a month after I graduated from college, I left for Albania. This was in the mid 90s, so this was right after the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. And
Yeah.
so I landed in this tiny little country, Albania, um, after probably 6 weeks of language training and a little bit of training on how to be a teacher. I was, sent to this small town that I ended up staying in for almost 2 years and started teaching high school English. A lot of teachers, I think, go through this experience, and not just teachers, but the imposter syndrome when you're put into a job and you're like, I don't belong here. Are people going to figure out like that I'm not for real? So,
Right.
being a teacher in my early 20s with high school students who had never been a teacher before, these, students were probably 4 years younger than me, or even less than that. It was a little bit intimidating at first. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, that experience of being in that school at that moment when Albania was opening the doors, after many years of isolation, and having this young American teacher come into this small town where very few foreigners had ever been before, um, and start working with these students, it was a magical moment for me. And when I got to see,
Yeah.
students who had lived in this very isolated country for many years start opening their eyes to the possibilities out there, sharing their thoughts and ideas about their futures, about their country. I got to witness kind of the power of facilitating learning from the teacher side and see, wow, I'm having like the impact that I'm having on these other people and on their lives. That's an amazing thing. And so
Yeah.
from the beginning, even though this is not something I had been planning since I was a little child, I was hooked on teaching because I could see the power that it had to impact the lives of other people. And I think, doing that, it kind of made me want to have more and keep going. So that's how it started for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think so I come from a family of teachers. And yeah, I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, yeah, great for
Yeah.
y'all. What changed my mind about it was actually last year where I was working at a nonprofit, and I work in the nonprofit sphere. And we were tasked with asking educators for donations. And when I went into the schools, um, I'm also into mental health, so I'm scanning the room for like, is everybody okay? You know, and everybody wasn't okay. And I was like, what? Okay. And I did my spiel, and it was like, yay, great, thanks for your time. Beat it, because it was during it's during the meeting,
Mhm.
right? So it's after school or before school. There's school business to attend to, and here I am. So I was like, okay, I'm going to change how I speak. What I'm talking about, because y'all are not getting what I'm putting down. I mean, poverty, help the kids, and it was still like, yay, beat it.
Mhm.
So I started to think. I said, well, is it is it the message? Is it the messenger,
Mhm.
or is it the audience? And so I started asking my mom, like, how was it when you were teaching? And then I started asking teachers now, and it's the same thing. And my mom's been retired the better part of 20 years. And it was a very curious thing because, again, my pursuit was mental health and therapy. But I said, there's something here that I've discovered that maybe people outside of education don't understand about education policies, how that affects teachers, because you know I think every other field is told just go get another job
Mhm.
or get another certification or go in a there are other options that I don't think educators are presented
Right.
with. And then once the administration changed, and I started seeing how we are all in this bubble, I started seeing, I think to your point, how important education
Mhm.
is. Even though if there's a language barrier, how knowing that you're in the position to educate people and help people open up their minds to education, how important it is. Because to me, and I know we'll get into it when we talk about the administration, things like that, I see it as a fundamental lack of education, a lack of a desire to learn. And I think that falls a lot on teachers as opposed to the education system altogether. And so those of us of a certain generation, we kind of realize that, but I think certain people don't. And then, of course, younger generations, I don't think they saw what we saw in terms of education moving you to places. And now the thought of that stopping, not only because of the policies, but also just watching trends. Educators, I'm getting my words mixed up, but it's not pushed like it was when I was in school. When I was in school, they wanted people to be educators and teachers, so they facilitated it to a certain point. But now it looks like those things, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they're not in place anymore.
Mhm.
So that incentivizing education and to become educators is not there.
Yeah, it's true. And if you look at the data for North Carolina, our teacher education preparation programs have been in decline for years. It's heartbreaking, how few young people want to be teachers. Unfortunately, they see they see the same thing the rest of us see. I mean, it's if you watch the news or read social media, I mean, it's all this culture war stuff, and it's not, it doesn't have the shine that it used to have, that's for sure. And at the same time, the needs that our children have for excellent teachers are I think getting, more pronounced every year. So just at the time, at the time when they really need excellent teachers more than ever before, we're struggling to put qualified teachers in the classroom. So it's definitely a real problem right now.
Yeah. And another thing I've seen is teachers are expected to deal with the mental health issues of
Mhm.
students without the training, without um, the background. And I'm not saying that they can't. It's just when it comes to mental health issues and students and development, there's a lot going on with that. And then on top of having to teach other students with other
Right.
issues and problems, or other students that just, you know, may not have mental health issues, but issues at home, um, is concerning to me as a mental health advocate because I'm saying on my side, from the mental health side, there is no connection with teachers. I mean, I think they have certain things in place, but for those of us who I feel would like to advocate for the mental health of not only students and educators, there's kind of a barrier
Hmm.
there. And so I feel like educators are left on their own with students with very serious
Right.
problems going on, um, that need, I mean, multifaceted help, not only in education, but at
Mhm.
home and behavioral. Um, so that's one of the things I was looking at
Yep.
too. Just as I was preparing for this. Um, what about reflections on the new school year? So we're going to move on a little bit. What So school year hasn't started, but just in the month of August, how are you? Here comes the mental health part. How are you feeling about the start of this school year? What do you see are some positives and maybe some things that need to be worked on?
Well, I mean, it's an exciting time of year. We just had open house 2 days ago. On Thursday, we had open house, and I mean, there's so many problems in the world right now. It
Yeah.
kind of feels like everything's on fire at times. But when you boil it down to the experience of an open house, and I mean, I've done this for many years. It feels very comfortable.
Yeah.
It's a part of the sort of the cadence of the school year, and when you see the that child coming through the line with fear on their face, who's just like trembling, um, and sometimes I ask him, what's the main thing that you're worried about? Usually, it's either are my teachers going to be mean, or am I going to have too much homework? But being in a position to kind of like set children at ease that, hey, listen, we're all in this together. Everyone is nervous. Even the teachers are going to be having butterflies on Sunday night. This is just how it is at the beginning of every year. And you get into the first day of school, and you see your friends, and before you know it, the day is already almost over. Um, it's just, it's a fun, exciting time of year. I think it's kind of that. It's new. Everything is new. It's all about anticipating new adventures and new friends and new experiences. So I think that part is fantastic. It's what I love. It's
Hmm.
one of the things I love about being a teacher, and I think a lot of others feel the same way. It's new bulletin boards. It's an exciting time of year. At the same time, we can't ignore
Yeah.
what's happening on the outside of the school, because it's going to affect what happens on the inside of the school this year too, and we all know that. Maybe those,
Yeah.
12-year-olds standing in line at open house might not, but the adults who are deeply involved with this education system understand what's happening, and what we're in some cases up against in terms of staffing and policies at the federal level and all that kind of thing. So I think, there's definitely that sort of excitement, which is, I believe, the standard part of the school year, but there's also a lot of apprehension about what the future holds. We don't have a state budget yet, and the fiscal year started July 1st. So we don't have any raises. We don't have any way of knowing for new hires what we can tell them what their salary is. That's a challenge. So we have,
Oh,
late last week, the news that they have voted to increase the state employees health plan premiums, which we're on the calendar year, so in January it means we're looking at higher premiums without any raises. So add that on to the economy and the tariffs and all that kind of thing. So I think a lot of people are a little bit worried about their bank account. Um, so, I think it's a mix. It's the excitement of a school year, but it's also a lot of apprehension about what we're facing.
yeah, yeah. And well, I could not imagine that with, with the policies coming through and the shortages and things like that. Now, I know I've seen, I think for Scythe County, there's
Mhm,
some shortages, and I think actual
mhm.
teacher shortages, and it's just, yeah, it's a very difficult time to be an educator, to be a human, just because so many changes are coming down the pike. Not only that, um, student safety, and I'm not just talking about violence, I'm talking about other things that can happen. Because even where I'm working, we have to start considering what to do if ICE comes through.
Right.
I didn't even think about
Mhm.
that, right? I'm like, and so all these things weighing on everybody, teachers, parents, community advocates. It's just so much. So I actually was heartened to hear you talk about bulletin boards and open houses and just that energy that the kids bring, even if it's nervous
Right.
energy, because I think any type of positivity that we can get, we need to hold on to it. Um, how do you see folk like me, community people who want to help? How do you see that from your personal opinion? What would that look like?
So just in terms of how can the community help in
Yes.
education?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there's different ways that people can help. I think that there's definitely always, and this is not new, but there's always a lot of volunteer opportunities in our schools. We've got, you talk about Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, losing staff. I mean, just looking at the numbers and thinking about, if they're cutting this number of EC teachers or classroom teachers, you know, that that's a person who was expecting to be in a classroom somewhere working with children. So when they're when they're removed from the equation, the needs don't go away. So that means that
Right.
the needs for math tutors and reading tutors are going to be more pronounced because those kids who needed that one-on-one attention are not going to have that level of, personal support that they would have had if the resources had been there. So I think definitely, if you've got a neighborhood school or a school that a child or relative attends that you feel connected with, then going into the office and saying, look, I'd love to help out. What do you need? What can I do? I think that's a great
Yeah.
place to start. Definitely, I think educating other people about policies and issues that we're facing in the classroom is also really important. I think we're living in a time, and it's really discouraging to watch this play out, but I think where we are in terms of just truth and how people process information is so different from what it was just 10 years ago. um,
Oh yeah.
and so I think that just makes it even more important that people understand, what our children are facing. For example, if we've got a child who's sitting in a classroom having trouble concentrating because they're worried about, is mom going to be at home when I get back? Or is this
Right.
immigration enforcement we've been hearing about? How's that going to affect my family? It's hard to concentrate on the
Yeah.
lesson when you're worried about stuff like that. So I think,
Absolutely.
making being a part of sharing, true information and pushing back against misinformation and distractions and that kind of thing is really important. We've got to understand what's happening at this moment if we want to know how to proceed, and what type of changes to want to move towards. So I think those are a couple things. Obviously, voting is hugely important. I think we're finding that out right
Mm-hmm.
now, how important
Yep.
elections are, and how staying on the sidelines, or just saying, well, I don't have time for this right now, or I'm not just not a political person. There's that saying, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. Um,
Right.
and I think a lot of people maybe haven't quite learned that lesson yet, but I think we're about to
Yeah.
learn some real hard lessons. So I think getting involved in your school personally, being an advocate, for um, on policy issues, voting for candidates that will support public education, that believe in the value of diversity in our schools, and ensuring that everyone has
Absolutely.
what they need to be successful in the United States.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Like one of the I was trying to remember. It's I don't even know how it happened. Like it was a webinar series I started just started following, and I didn't realize how Medicaid and SNAP affects
Mhm.
schools, but especially Title I schools, and then even child's development. And I was thinking, if I don't know this, you know, it's like how many people out there don't know? So when we're talking about SNAP and Medicaid, Medicare, all types of um, social supports, and people are like, well, yeah, get rid of them. It's like everything. I'm saying for myself, everything is so
Yep.
interconnected, and we don't realize how interconnected the government is and everything. It's surprising and
Mhm.
scary. And so that learning about policy, that going out at the they say lower level of elections, and even and just learning the candidates and what they stand for, to your point, is so important. And I think that's where it starts. I think the disconnection starts at the lower level, so that by the time we're talking presidency, everybody's like, well, I don't know, like I heard this, I heard that, or I'm not going to
Right.
vote. And we, like you're saying, there's no
Yeah.
sidelines anymore. You're either kind of getting, like you said, rolled
Mhm.
along, or you're trying to stem the tide. And also, I think, and this is why, like I said, I watched you on LinkedIn, and I liked it because you helped fuel my sense of like, this is my place at this moment right now in this
Mhm.
fight. It may get bigger, it may grow, but right now there are people out there who, I say this, in education, who are speaking a level of truth. Because I know a lot of people that that's just not what they want to do. I understand it's like that's just not what I want to do in terms of politics. So that's why when I saw your content, I said, oh, this is something I can follow and learn from, and maybe eventually reach out to, because you're helping educate everybody who follows you, and I greatly appreciate that. It just it helps to be. I think you need one lead one, teach, what is it, teach one anyway, like
Each one
each one
teach one,
teach one,
right?
I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So we need we need people like you, and we need people like me and others who amplify the importance of education, and not be in these echo chambers, but branch out to help people understand that all of this matters, from the smallest bit to the biggest picture. It all matters. And us being, even though it's divisive, it's designed to divide us, we have to stick
Right.
together through this and learn and take action where we are.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So, I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
I fully agree with you. Absolutely.
What's keeping you in the game? What is keeping you in the teacher game? 23 years?
23 years in Charlotte.
How?
Yeah. 23 years in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. Yep.
Yeah. What's keeping you in the game? What are you, something motivational you're saying yourself every day? What would you share with us?
Well, that's a good question. I ask myself that sometimes too. I mean, especially over the last few years, have seen a lot of people,
Yeah.
people that I thought would be in the classroom until they retired, tap out, and move to the private sector. Just like, I just can't do this anymore for a variety of reasons. So I think for me, it's that um, I still feel that same feeling that I felt my first year of teaching, that feeling of empowerment about the work that I'm doing, about the position that I am in to have an impact on the lives of other people. I still feel that deeply, every day of my job, and I think that still motivates me. Um, the way it did the first year that I taught, when I was like, "Oh, this is it." I did not realize I was looking for a career, but this is one that I could see myself doing. I mean, I feel successful. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm having it, making an impact on people. And that part hasn't gone away. What has changed over that time is that the needs of the
Hmm.
people that I'm serving have become even more pronounced and even more complicated. So I kind of feel like, I mean, I'm
Right.
just one teacher, and there's plenty of people who do it better than me, but I feel a level of responsibility, I think, still, that, if the need is so immense out there. There are so many children who need a teacher who is competent, who cares, who is empathetic towards what their life is like, and what they need, in this world. I feel like I am in a position to help. So that's what keeps me going. And I think also, um, on the policy side, I'm kind of hard headed, and we've been fighting this battle in North Carolina for a long time,
Yeah.
with I would say, um, few wins. It's been an uphill battle for a long
Yeah.
time now. But I don't know, something about this state that I've grown to love, and something about, being in a struggle where, you feel that the struggle is righteous, and you understand the stakes, and
Absolutely.
you understand, um, you know, you understand. Well, I shouldn't say. I mean, I speak from my own personal, point of view. I believe that, education is a human right. I believe it's a right that should
Absolutely.
be, that is guaranteed to every resident in our state. And I think that, that fight is worth fighting, uh, because we have
Yeah.
children who are not receiving what they need, who aren't, the state's not meeting its constitutional obligation to them. And I don't think that looking the other way, or saying, "You know what, I've been talking about this stuff for so many years, and it hasn't made a bit of difference." That to me does not seem like a route to take either.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what I'm seeing now. It is an uphill struggle.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. I mean, we've had,
and
unfortunately,
yeah.
especially for public education in this state, it's just been a death by a
Yeah.
thousand cuts, it feels like sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It has, and it's something that, just as an outside observer, it's just something that I'm just reflecting on what I've seen. Um, like it's just not valued.
Mhm.
Or it's valued in terms of, okay, well, if I can't get this job, what's the point of going to school?
Right.
In terms of students and, as they get older. And the one thing I realize I value about education is it's made me a person who loves learning. That's right. So I see that as becoming, going through the public school system made it so I could say, okay, well, I want to do a podcast. I don't really know how to do it, but I'm willing to learn because I know that I have the capacity to learn. And that capacity is powerful to me. But but to know that some people, didn't have the same experience as I did, which I understand, but that the ability to learn, you know, is something that you're not. I think it is instilled in school. As you learn from the teachers, it's like, okay, well, and I always was one of those people, if someone says something, I was like, well, what does that mean? I got to look that up.
Mhm.
And I'm still that person. And I'm grateful for that because in this moment, that's what's keeping me tied to this political thing. Okay, that ties with this, ties with that, which affects the schools, you
Yeah.
see? And so everything's tied together. And so that's why I really like speaking with you again, because you you you're keeping the fire going and showing how valuable education is. I feel like that's the point of our
Hmm.
connection, is to show people that, um, again, every this stuff matters, but there are real lives being affected, not only students but educators, right? Because the educators I was talking to, they're like, I'm about to leave.
Yeah.
I'm and because a lot of them I was like, okay, I want to talk about resiliency, burnout, along with the educational policy, and a lot of them were like, talk to the younger teachers because they're about to be
Yeah.
out. And when they said younger teachers, I'm thinking age. They're like, well, more experience. So the 1 to 2 year teachers, a lot of them are about to leave, and I was like, you can't sustain a field with the people 1 or 2 years in about to leave. And so that's what I want to speak to as well. I want to speak to the policy of it, but I also would like to speak to veterans like you've been in the trenches to inspire
Hmm.
those who are a year or two into this. It is a different time, but I think there's some just timeless values that can be shared. So,
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that
yeah,
you're doing this. And I will say that even though
thank
like
you.
I said before, it feels like it's been an uphill battle and more losses than wins over the last, 10, 15 years in North Carolina. We have an amazing community of people who believe deeply in the power of public education. People like yourself who are doing this project and are interested in connecting people and facilitating conversations. And public polling consistently shows that the vast majority of people want more funding for education. That believe that
Thanks.
that having a robust, strong public education system is the most important, budgetary consideration for a state. Um, Unfortunately,
Yes.
those aren't the people who are writing the budget or making all of the decisions. And I think policymakers in
Right.
North Carolina and elsewhere have found a way to sideline people who feel that way and maybe some dirty tricks here and there to hold on to power, gerrymandering and that type
Yeah.
of thing. But still, there are
Yes.
a lot of us who believe that education deserves serious support and resources and are not going to go away and stop fighting for that.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, I think it's past back to school stuff,
Hmm.
right? I think it's a year-long connection. This is one of the things I endeavor to do, to connect to school or educators and address those. What are the needs? So if it is school supplies during the year, okay, cool, because everybody's doing it in August, but October or
Yeah.
January, what does that look like? Or just creating a space for educators to just be, because I see the teachers that I have as like heroes, but even heroes need to take the
Right.
cape off
Right.
once or twice or many
Hmm.
times. And so that's what that's what this is as well. Because I think that so many I've had experiences, I'll say this, in my working life where upper administration was like, yeah, no, like we don't want to address the needs of this particular need with
Hmm.
teachers. And it's like, but why? It was so weird. I I asked questions about what do you guys need, and they were like, yeah, we need school supplies. It's middle of the year, and I'm like, cool, we got you. And then I was told, no, we don't.
Hmm.
No. And I was like, it's not like we can do what they're asking. It was like, well, no, we don't want, almost like we don't want people to see the need.
Hmm.
And I was like, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm not getting into
Yeah.
all this. This is something I want to do for myself because the need, if you show people a need, people are willing to help, especially when it comes to education and their
Right.
kids. But if the teachers are tasked with shouldering the whole burden, most people are not going to know.
Yeah.
And then if there's this sort of thing where we don't want to show people that teachers are struggling, then it's just even it was a weird experience. It was my first time seeing it. Now you may be maybe something you've seen a lot of times, but I just, even now, months later, I'm still in disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
But I said to myself, I was like, well, this is what. Now I'm just out here doing it. Imagine being a teacher and having that need and running into
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know the needs are there.
They're there.
Mm-hmm.
They are there. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Justin. That's all I had today. I had a couple followers, but I think we covered everything. Anything else you want to let the people know, or
No, I just wanted to
anything?
thank you again. I appreciate you, putting this platform into place and allowing me the opportunity to come and talk about what I'm most passionate about, and would love to come back and visit with you another time. But I'm just really
Absolutely.
appreciate you caring about this topic and wanting to facilitate other people understanding better, what the challenges are that we're facing in public schools and maybe some ways to help. So I really appreciate you.
Yes. Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for coming on here, sharing your knowledge again. The door is open for you to join me again, because I need your light. I need your knowledge. And this was great. I can't wait to do it again. You want to let people know your socials, or if you want to, like LinkedIn, Facebook,
Okay.
anything you got coming up?
Sure, yeah. So I'm on all the regular social media sites, just by name Justin Parmenter. I have a website called notesfromthechalkboard.com, which
Okay.
sometimes I'm a little more active there than others. Kind of depends on what's happening in how busy I am in school and what's happening in the outside world. But you can find me there as well. In terms of what's coming up,
Mhm.
let's see. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the date on this. Let's see, September 22nd, in Guilford County. Okay, here it is. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry to keep you waiting.
my
So
parts. Okay.
let's see. Yeah, September 22nd. Okay, so there's an indivisible panel, and it's going to be let's see, where is this? Okay, here it is. Monday, September 22nd, College Park Baptist Church in Greensboro from 6 p.m. to 7:30. So it's a very small panel,
Okay.
but we have Supreme Court Justice Anita Earls on the panel, and
Okay.
then we've got Monica Walker from Guilford County, who is running for city council, and
Okay.
she's going to be there. And then two educators, Joanna Pendleton, who is the president of Guilford County Association of Educators, and then I'll be there as well. So that's September 22nd, in Greensboro. I think that's the only thing I've got
Yes.
coming up that I know about.
Awesome. So a couple things. I'm in Guilford
Yep.
County. Number two, I was following a lady yesterday. She was like, "You need to get with Indivisible." I was like, "I don't know. That may be a step too far." And here you come.
Well, I mean,
That's it. Okay.
I got this invitation. I was like, what, you want to be on a panel with the Supreme Court justice? Okay, I'll do that. But yeah, it's a
Yeah. Awesome.
conversation. It's the intersection of the justice system, public policy, and the need for equity in education. So I think it's going to be a fantastic conversation and a lot of insight. I'll be excited to hear from someone with experience on the courts. What it looks like from that side, because I think a lot of people have pretty deep concerns right now about what's happening, in some of our courts.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a really good night, good conversation. I hope you can make it.
Yes. Please send me the
I will.
information. I tried to put it in with you, but yeah, definitely. That'd be great. Okay. Well, awesome. Look at you. I think that I'm like, that's a sign. I got to do it.
Yeah. So I'll
Right.
forward that
Okay.
information to you.
Well,
But
again,
I appreciate the
thank you
opportunity. Thank you
so
so much
much.
for having me on today.
Thank you. You take care,
All right.
Justin.
We'll see you later.
All right, and everybody, thank you so much for joining Justin and I. I'll have my socials and everything listed for you to get in touch with me as well, and I hope you'll be able to join us next time. Take care.